Hello, I'm Gurcharan, the author of The Difficulty of Being Good on the Subtle Art of Dharma. With me today is my dear friend Salman Khurshid, one of the most sensitive persons I know and who happens to be also a minister in this government. Salman, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you've had a chance to read the book.
Well, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And if you ask me why did I, so many books to read these days, why did I pick this and why did I give it priority? Frankly, as a person in public life, and as a human being, as a lawyer, a little bit of a homespun philosopher, I've asked this question over and over again. One, how important it is to be good. And two, how difficult it is to be good. And when I saw this book on the difficulty of being good, I thought, this is it. I must read it. And frankly, every page and every word in this book has been fascinating because many of the complex questions that one comes across, and I'm sure that you'll be delighted to hear this, in our contemporary life, which, you want answers to. Where do you find those answers? You go back to your own life, own childhood, the instructions that your parents have given you, like your mother in the book and your father, your grandmother. So one searches for those answers. They're not always available in the family. And I must say, very wonderfully presented by you in this book.
Well, thank you. Thank you. One of the questions that somebody asked me actually yesterday was, did the events in the Mahabharata actually take place?
Did they?
And yeah, this is, and so I sort of turn to this chronology that I have in the beginning of the book, and in this chronology, I do suggest that around 950 BC, we are not sure, but scholars speculate that there was a war at Kurukshetra. And it was probably a war between the two tribes, the Kurus and the Panchalas. And the junior Kurus, who were the Pandavas, joined with the Panchalas in this very devastating war. And the memory of that war and its constant recitation by the bards over centuries eventually resulted in this book, which was in fact composed from about this again we're not sure about, but composed from about 300 BC and went on until it was finally written down for the first time about 400 AD. So it's a long period and one's not sure. But like the Iliad and what Schliemann found in Troy, and I think if we keep digging, maybe
we'll probably find the remains.
We will.
So that's interesting. It's interesting. Something did happen. Something that was at that time historically true, and then around that we've built stories, created stories, moral propositions. Indeed, for some people, religions or a religion, and the same thing, I guess. Is what is happening each time someone writes about the Mahabharata. Of course, you've been quoted in the book as saying nobody ever reads Mahabharata for the first time because it's so much part of your ethos. You've heard it from childhood in this country. That when you read it for the first time, in effect, you're saying, I know all this. But yet, every time you write about it, every time you explore it, you're adding something to the idea of truth, something to the concept of dharma, and something to this very debate about good and bad, between good and evil. Is that Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That this is what a classic is. That every generation can interpret it for its for itself. And what I've tried to do is try to interpret it for our post-reform generation of the early 21st century. And from the beginning, actually, the Mahabharata was used in this way, that the bards were seeking to make sense of how to live. That's really the question. The living the examined life. I mean, Yudhishthir's search in the Mahabharata is precisely how do you live your life? And the various things in it, are constantly, the text itself is interrogating the notion of dharma, or even something like revenge. I don't know whether you remember.
Revenge, remorse,
Yes.
dharma.
Yes.
I mean, it's all there, but tell us about revenge, because that's something that we deal with everyday life. So tell us something
I
about
mean,
it.
in all of us, there's this feeling that if somebody does something bad, that person deserves something worse in return. I mean, that's to bring about certain moral equilibrium, which is a very human need in all of us. And that's why a movie like Kill Bill or even Scarlet Letter, with Roger Chillingworth, we all want him to get it, So I want to come back to this question of revenge in a minute, but now we have to take a break, and so we'll come back.